Chapter 4. The Quiet Weight of the Desk. While some people wake up at 6 a.m. just to start breakfast, others are already hunched over their laptops, the blue light reflecting off their faces as they tackle office tasks. Some have been awake since 4 a.m., the rhythm of slicing shallots and prepping the family's morning meal, serving as their own quiet meditation. Today was Friday. For Rina, listening to her superior compare the finance department to sales for the 100th time was a true test of her spirit. During the evaluation, her boss praised a sales worker's energy while critiquing the finance team's rigid pace. It was a glaring apples to oranges comparison that felt utterly unmeasured. It wasn't just the abstract comparisons that bothered her. It was the physical reality on her desk. A stack of incomplete invoices sat there, gathering dust. The sales team had already collected their commissions for the month, yet here she was, chasing them for the basic signatures and supporting documents required to actually close the books. They were the heroes, bringing in the revenue, while she was treated like the bureaucrat slowing them down. It made her realize a bitter truth. Some people are allowed to be messy because they are loud, while others are expected to be perfect because they are quiet. Rina returned to her minutes of the meeting, her fingers flying across the keys. She paused, questioning whether her perspective was truly objective, or if it was being clouded by a past trauma of being compared to others. It was a fine line. Some people truly embrace a victim mentality, while others constantly strive to evaluate and heal from their past wounds, each at their own pace. At home, the atmosphere shifted. She greeted her mother-in-law, Sophie, and shared a few precious moments with her baby girl, Mia. Mia was now enthusiastically crawling and practicing her first babbles, a reminder that life moved forward regardless of office politics. Later that night, her husband shared his own work frustrations. He agreed that Rina wasn't just being sensitive. Working with others is rarely easy. There are always systemic gaps that cannot be fixed without management willing to evaluate how departments interconnect. Real follow-up was needed, not just a repetition of the same old complaints in meeting after meeting. Before closing her eyes, Rina glanced at a photo on her phone, feeling a slight lingering weight in her mind. Soon, exhaustion took over, and she drifted off. Chapter 5. Lessons from the Needle and Thread. The next day was Saturday. Rina spent the morning learning to use Sophie's sewing machine. Previously, she only knew how to sew by hand with a simple needle and thread. She quickly realized that mastery requires time and patience. From 9 a.m. onwards, she practiced threading the needle with precision and accepting corrections. When she made a mistake, she practiced not blaming herself, simply trying again until she got it right. By late afternoon, she had successfully mended 2 of her shirts. During lunch, Sophie noticed Rina's lingering pensiveness. "Rina, why did you look so gloomy when you came home yesterday? I wanted to ask last night, but the timing wasn't right. Would you like to share?" Rina smiled and explained her frustrations. After listening, Sophie spoke gently, using the only world she knew to explain the one Rina lived in. "It's like when I'm cooking, but suddenly need to sew someone's clothes because they are waiting in the living room. Do you think I can do both at once? No. I have to turn off the stove first to finish the sewing. Only then can I go back to the cooking." Sophie continued, "One is urgent, the other is not. If you try to do everything yourself without help, something will be sacrificed. To be truly at your best, you need to prioritize. But if you have someone to help you in the kitchen, you can sew without rushing, right? It's the same with a team. Work with a sincere heart and a willing spirit. Let the quality of your effort be a reflection of your own integrity, regardless of who is watching or judging. Rina felt the heavy burden in her heart begin to fade. She remembered a photo she saw the night before, a picture of herself when she was first looking for a job, and another from right after she had Mia. She had overcome so much. Why did she let her mind slip into overthinking so easily? Rina smiled at this realization. She spent the rest of the day playing with Mia at a nearby park. As the sun began to set, Rina watched Mia reach for a dandelion. Her mind drifted back to the sewing machine. For the first time in years, the thought of Monday morning didn't feel like a weight. It felt like a distraction from the person she was becoming on the weekends. She pulled out her phone, not to check work emails, but to search for something she hadn't looked at since college: how to start a creative journal. But as she opened her browser, a saved photo from her old office folder caught her eye. One she didn't remember taking, featuring a document she should have never seen. Chapter 6. The Architect of the Exit. Monday mornings usually felt like a slow-motion collision between the peace of the weekend and the noise of the world. But this Monday was different. As Rina sat on the commute, the soft hum of the train felt distant. Her mind was anchored to the image she had found on her phone, a PDF titled Project Quantum, Operational Efficiency Realignment. It was a cold, clinical document. There, on page 14, was a color-coded organizational chart for the upcoming quarter. Her department, the finance team she had poured her precision into, was shaded in a pale, ghostly gray. The legend at the bottom was clear: functions to be outsourced/merged. Next to her own name, in a small, sharp font, were the words, "Pending final evaluation." The irony was like a bitter pill. On Friday, her boss had stood there comparing her to the high-energy sales team, acting as if she just needed to catch up. In reality, he was likely already holding the pen that would strike her name from the payroll. He wasn't evaluating her performance. He was justifying a decision that had already been made in a boardroom she wasn't invited to. Rina didn't feel the panic she expected. Instead, she felt a strange, cooling clarity. When she finally walked into the office, the air felt different. She looked at her boss's closed office door and realized that while he was busy realigning the company, she was busy realigning her life. She sat down, not as a woman afraid of a layoff, but as an architect planning her next move. If they wanted to outsource her role, she would let them. But she would be the one to decide where her talent, her slow precision, and her joy would go next. That evening, after Mia was tucked away in her crib and the house fell into a comfortable hush, Rina sat at the dining table. Beside her was a cooling cup of ginger tea and her creative journal. She didn't open her work laptop. Instead, she opened a fresh page and titled it, "The Harvest of Small Things." She realized that the precision she used in the finance department, the eye for detail, the love for order, wasn't a burden. It was a tool. If she could balance a multi-billion rupiah budget, she could certainly balance a small business of her own. She began to sketch out how her Saturday mending and her love for baking could become more than just a weekend escape. Rina thought about her church community. For years, she had been a face in the crowd, rushing in and out between work shifts. But she remembered the older women who loved her baking, and the young mothers who always complained about their children's torn school uniforms. "It's not just about the money," she wrote, her pen gliding across the paper. "It's about being useful in a way that doesn't drain me." She picked up her phone and did something she hadn't done in months. She messaged an old friend from the church's women's circle, Cock Esther. "Hi, Cock. I've been practicing my sewing on my mother-in-law's old machine and doing some baking this weekend. I was wondering if the church needs any snacks for the youth gathering next Sunday. I'd love to contribute a few boxes of my pandan chiffon cake. No charge. Just want to share the joy." Next, she looked at the video she had taken of the sunlight hitting the flour dust in her kitchen that morning. It was only 10 seconds long, but it felt like a prayer. She edited it with a simple, quiet acoustic track and added a caption, "Learning that some things are better when they take time. Today was for mending, both my clothes and my spirit." She didn't post it for clout or likes. She posted it as a marker, as a declaration that Rina, the finance manager, was becoming Rina, the creator. As she set her phone down, a reply from Cock Esther popped up instantly. "Rina, what perfect timing. We were actually just talking about you. Not just for the cake, but do you remember Sarah? She started a sustainably made collective in the city and is looking for someone with a finance background who actually understands the heart of a craft. Can we grab coffee after service on Sunday?" Rina felt a shiver of excitement. It wasn't a job offer, not yet, but it was a door. And for the first time in a long time, she felt like she finally had the keys.